Section 1 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sue Gill. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Bed in Summer. In winter I get up at night and dress by yellow candlelight. In summer quite the other way, I have to go to bed by day. I have to go to bed and see the birds still hopping on the tree, or hear the grown-up people's feet still going past me in the street. And does it not seem hard to you when all the sky is clear and blue? And I should like so much to play, to have to go to bed by day? End of Section 1. Recording by Sue Gill.
Section 2 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by etraytin. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Young Night Thought. All night long and every night, when my mamma puts out the light, I see the people marching by, as plain as day before my eye. Armies and emperors and kings, all carrying different kinds of things, and marching in so grand a way, you never saw the like by day. So fine a show was never seen at the great circus on the green, for every kind beast and man is marching in that caravan. At first they move a little slow, but still the faster on they go, and still beside them close I keep, until we reach the town of sleep. End of Section 2. Section 3 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by etraytin. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Pirate Story. 3 of us afloat in the meadow by the swing, 3 of us aboard in the basket on the lee. Winds are in the air, they are blowing in the spring, and waves are on the meadow like the waves there are at sea. Where shall we adventure today that we're afloat, wary of the weather and steering by a star? Shall it be to Africa, a steering of the boat, to Providence or Babylon, or off to Malabar? Hi, but here's a squadron, a rowing on the sea, cattle on the meadow, a charging with a roar. Quick, and we'll escape them, they're mad as they can be. The wicket is the harbor, and the garden is the shore. End of Section 3. Section 4 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by etraytin. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Farewell to the Farm. The coach is at the door at last. The eager children, mounting fast and kissing hands, in chorus sing, "Goodbye, goodbye to everything." To house and garden, field and lawn, the meadow gates we swung upon, to pump and stable, tree and swing, goodbye, goodbye to everything. And fare you well for evermore, O ladder at the hayloft door, O hayloft where the cobwebs cling, goodbye, goodbye to everything. Crack goes the whip and off we go, the trees and houses smaller grow, last round the woody turn we swing, goodbye, goodbye to everything. End of Section 4.
Section 5 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sue Gill. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Land of Counterpane. When I was sick and lay abed, I had 2 pillows at my head, and all my toys beside me lay to keep me happy all the day. And sometimes for an hour or so, I watched my leaden soldiers go, with different uniforms and drills, among the bedclothes through the hills. And sometimes sent my ships and fleets, all up and down among the sheets, or brought my trees and houses out, and planted cities all about. I was a giant, great and still, that sits upon the pillow hill, and sees before him dale and plain, the pleasant land of Counterpane. End of section 5. Recording by Sue Gill.
Section 6 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by etraytin. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Fairy Bread. Come up here, O dusty feet. Here is fairy bread to eat. Here in my retiring room, children, you may dine, on the golden smell of broom and the shade of pine. And when you have eaten well, fairy stories hear and tell. End of section 6. Section 7 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by etraytin. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Escape at Bedtime. The lights from the parlor and kitchen shone out, through the blinds and the windows and bars, and high overhead and all moving about, there were thousands of millions of stars. There ne'er were such thousands of leaves on a tree, nor of people in church or the park, as the crowds of the stars that looked down upon me, and that glittered and winked in the dark. The dog and the plough and the hunter and all, and the star of the sailor and Mars, these shone in the sky, and the pail by the wall would be half full of water and stars. They saw me at last, and they chased me with cries, and they soon had me packed into bed. But the glory kept shining and bright in my eyes, and the stars going round in my head. End of section 7.
Section 8 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sue Gill. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. A good play. We built a ship upon the stairs, all made of the back bedroom chairs, and filled it full of sofa pillows to go a-sailing on the billows. We took a saw and several nails and water in the nursery pails, and Tom said, "Let us also take an apple and a slice of cake," which was enough for Tom and me to go a-sailing on till tea. We sailed along for days and days, and had the very best of plays, but Tom fell out and hurt his knee, so there was no one left but me. End of section 8. Recording by Sue Gill.
Section 9 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Marching Song. Bring the comb and play upon it. Marching, here we come. Willie cocks his Highland bonnet, Johnny beats the drum. Mary Jane commands the party, Peter leads the rear. Feet in time, alert and hearty, each a grenadier. All in the most martial manner, marching double quick, while the napkin like a banner waves upon the stick. Here's enough of fame and pillage, great Commander Jane. Now that we've been round the village, let's go home again. End of section 9. Recording by Sue Lusk. Section 10 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Where go the boats? Dark brown is the river, golden is the sand. It flows along forever with trees on either hand. Green leaves are floating, castles of the foam, boats of mine are boating. Where will all come home? On goes the river, and out past the mill, away down the valley, away down the hill, away down the river 100 miles or more. Other little children shall bring my boats ashore. End of section 10. Recording by Sue Lusk.
Section 11 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Andrew Gaunce. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Hayloft. Through all the pleasant meadow side the grass grew shoulder high, till the shining scythes went far and wide and cut it down to dry. These green and sweetly smelling crops they led in wagons home, and they piled them here in mountain tops for mountaineers to roam. Here is Mount Clear, Mount Rusty Nail, Mount Eagle, and Mount High. The mice that in these mountains dwell no happier are than I. Oh, what a joy to clamber there! Oh, what a place for play! With the sweet, the dim, the dusty air, the happy hills of hay. End of section 11.
Section 12 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caro. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Auntie's Skirts. Whenever Auntie moves around, her dresses make a curious sound. They trail behind her up the floor and trundle after through the door. End of section 12.
Section 13 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Jack Ball. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Moon. The moon has a face like the clock in the hall. She shines on thieves on the garden wall, on streets and fields and harbour quays, and birdies asleep in the forks of the trees. The squalling cat and the squeaking mouse, the howling dog by the door of the house, the bat that lies in bed at noon, all love to be out by the light of the moon. But of all the things that belong to the day, cuddle to sleep to be out of her way, and flowers and children close their eyes, till up in the morning the sun shall rise. End of section 13.
Section 14 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Holton Johnson. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Cow. The friendly cow, all red and white, I love with all my heart. She gives me cream with all her might, to eat with apple tart. She wanders lowing here and there, and yet she cannot stray, all in the pleasant open air, the pleasant light of day. And blown by all the winds that pass, and wet with all the showers, she walks among the meadow grass, and eats the meadow flowers. End of section 14.
Section 15 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Foreign Lands. Up into the cherry tree, who should climb but little me? I held the trunk with both my hands, and looked abroad on foreign lands. I saw the next door garden lie, adorned with flowers before my eye, and many pleasant places more that I had never seen before. I saw the dimpling river pass, and be the sky's blue looking-glass. The dusty roads go up and down, with people tramping into town. If I could find a higher tree, farther and farther I should see, to where the grown-up river slips into the sea among the ships, to where the roads on either hand lead onward into fairyland, where all the children dine at 5, and all the playthings come alive. End of section 15. Section 16 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. System. Every night my prayers I say, and get my dinner every day. And every day that I've been good, I get an orange after food. The child that is not clean and neat, with lots of toys and things to eat. He is a naughty child, I'm sure, or else his dear papa is poor. End of section 16. Section 17 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. At the Seaside. When I was down beside the sea, a wooden spade they gave to me to dig the sandy shore. My holes were like a hollow cup. In every hole the sea came up, till it could hold no more. End of section 17. Section 18 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Happy Thought. The world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings. End of section 18.
Section 19 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Andrew Gaunce. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Land of Nod. From breakfast on through all the day, at home among my friends I stay. But every night I go abroad, afar into the land of Nod. All by myself I have to go, with none to tell me what to do, all alone beside the streams and up the mountainsides of dreams. The strangest things are there for me, both things to eat and things to see, and many frightening sights abroad till morning in the land of Nod. Try as I like to find the way, I never can get back by day, nor can remember plain and clear the curious music that I hear. End of section 19.
Section number 20 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Richard Green, Frederick, Maryland, www.greenvocals.com. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson, Windy Nights. Whenever the moon and stars are set, whenever the wind is high, all night long in the dark and wet, a man goes riding by. Late in the night when the fires are out, why does he gallop and gallop about? Whenever the trees are crying aloud and ships are tossed at sea, by on the highway, low and loud, by at the gallop goes he. By at the gallop he goes, and then by he comes back at the gallop again. End of section 20. Recording by Richard Green, Frederick, Maryland, www.greenvocals.com. Section number 21 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Richard Green, Frederick, Maryland, www.greenvocals.com. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Time to Rise. A birdie with a yellow bill hopped up on the windowsill, cocked his shining eye and said, "Ain't you shamed, you sleepy head?" End of section number 21. Recording by Richard Green, Frederick, Maryland, www.greenvocals.com.
Section 22 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sindu Ravindran. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Rain. The rain is raining all around. It falls on field and tree. It rains on the umbrellas here and on the ships at sea. End of section 22.
Section 23 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caro. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Foreign Children. Little Indian, Sioux or Crow, little frosty Eskimo, little Turk or Japanese, oh, don't you wish that you were me? You have seen the scarlet trees and the lions overseas. You have eaten ostrich eggs and turned the turtles off their legs. Such a life is very fine, but it's not so nice as mine. You must often, as you trod, have wearied not to be abroad. You have curious things to eat. I am fed on proper meat. You must dwell beyond the foam, but I am safe and live at home. End of section 23.
Section 24 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sindu Ravindran. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Looking forward. When I'm grown to man's estate, I shall be very proud and great, and tell the other girls and boys not to meddle with my toys. End of section 24.
Section 25 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Andrew Gaunce. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. My Shadow. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow, not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. For he sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball, and he sometimes gets so little that there's none of him at all. He hasn't got a notion of how children ought to play, and can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he's a coward, you can see. I'd think shame to stick to Nursey as that shadow sticks to me. One morning very early before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup, but my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepyhead, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. End of section 25.
Section 26 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sindu Ravindran. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Sun's Travels. The sun is not abed when I at night upon my pillow lie. Still round the earth his way he takes, and morning after morning makes. While here at home in shiny day, we round the sunny garden play. Each little Indian sleepy head is being kissed and put to bed. And when at eve I rise from tea, day dawns beyond the Atlantic Sea, and all the children in the West are getting up and being dressed. End of section 26. Section 27 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sindu Ravindran. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Looking Glass River. Smooth it slides upon its travel, here a wimple, there a gleam. Oh, the clean gravel, oh, the smooth stream. Sailing blossoms, silver fishes, pavan pools as clear as air. How a child wishes to live down there. End of section 27.
Section 28 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Lamplighter. My tea is nearly ready, and the sun has left the sky. It's time to take the window to see Leary going by. For every night at tea time, and before you take your seat, with lantern and with ladder he comes posting up the street. Now Tom would be a driver, and Maria goes to sea, and my papa's a banker, and as rich as he can be. But I, when I am stronger, and can choose what I'm to do, oh, Leary, I'll go round at night and light the lamps with you. For we are very lucky with a lamp before the door, and Leary stops to light it as he lights so many more. And oh, before you hurry by with ladder and with light, oh, Leary, see a little child and nod to him tonight. End of section 28.
Section 29 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caro. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Singing. Of speckled eggs the birdie sings and nests among the trees. The sailor sings of ropes and things and ships upon the seas. The children sing in far Japan, the children sing in Spain. The organ with the organ man is singing in the rain. End of section 29.
Section 30 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Travel. I should like to rise and go where the golden apples grow, where below another sky parrot islands anchored lie, and watch by cockatoos and goats lonely Crusoes building boats, where in sunshine reaching out eastern cities miles about are with mosque and minaret among sandy gardens set, and the rich goods from near and far hang for sale in the bazaar, where the great war round China goes, and on one side the desert blows, and with bell and voice and drum cities on the other hum, where are forests hot as fire, wide as England, tall as a spire, full of apes and coconuts, and the negro hunters' huts, where the knotty crocodile lies and blinks in the Nile, and the red flamingo flies hunting fish before his eyes, where in jungles near and far man-devouring tigers are, lying close and giving ear, lest the hunt be drawing near, or a comer-by be seen, swinging in a palanquin, where among the desert sands some deserted city stands, all its children, sweep and prince, grown to manhood ages since. Not a foot in street or house, not a stir of child or mouse, and when kindly falls the night, in all the town no spark of light. There I'll come when I'm a man, with a camel caravan, light a fire in the gloom of some dusty dining room, see the pictures on the walls, heroes, fights and festivals, and in a corner find the toys of the old Egyptian boys. End of section 30.
Section 31 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caro. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. My bed is a boat. My bed is like a little boat. Nurse helps me in when I embark. She girds me in my sailor's coat and starts me in the dark. At night I go on board and say good night to all my friends on shore. I shut my eyes and sail away and see and hear no more. And sometimes things to bed I take, as prudent sailors have to do, perhaps a slice of wedding cake, perhaps a toy or two. All night across the dark we steer, but when the day returns at last, safe in my room beside the pier, I find my vessel fast. End of section 31.
Section 32 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Keepsake Mill. Over the borders, a sin without pardon, breaking the branches and crawling below. Out through the breach in the wall of the garden, down by the banks of the river we go. Here is the mill with the humming of thunder. Here is the weir with the wonder of foam. Here is the sluice with the race running under. Marvellous places, though handy to home. Sounds of the village grow stiller and stiller. Stiller the note of the birds on the hill. Dusty and dim are the eyes of the miller. Deaf are his ears with the moil of the mill. Years may go by and the wheel in the river wheel as it wheels for us children today, wheel and keep roaring and foaming for ever, long after all of the boys are away. Home from the Indies and home from the ocean, heroes and soldiers we all shall come home. Still we shall find the old mill wheel in motion, turning and churning that river to foam. You with the bean that I gave when we quarrelled, I with your marble of Saturday last. Honoured and old and all gaily apparelled, here we shall meet and remember the past. End of section 32.
Section 33 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Unseen Playmate. When children are playing alone on the green, in comes the playmate that never was seen. When children are happy and lonely and good, the friend of the children comes out of the wood. Nobody heard him and nobody saw. His is a picture you could never draw. But he's sure to be present, abroad or at home, when children are happy and playing alone. He lies in the laurels, he runs on the grass, he sings when you tinkle the musical glass. Whene'er you are happy and cannot tell why, the friend of the children is sure to be by. He loves to be little, he hates to be big. 'Tis he that inhabits the caves that you dig. 'Tis he when you play with your soldiers of tin, that sides with the Frenchman and never can win. 'Tis he when at night you go off to your bed, bids you go to your sleep and not trouble your head. For wherever they're lying, in cupboard or shelf, 'tis he will take care of your playthings himself. End of section 33. Recording by Sue Lusk.
Section 34 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sue Gill. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. My Ship and I. Oh, it's I that am the captain of a tidy little ship, of a ship that goes a-sailing on the pond. And my ship, it keeps a-turning all around and all about. But when I'm a little older, I shall find the secret out, how to send my vessel sailing on beyond. For I mean to grow as little as the dolly at the helm, and the dolly I intend to come alive. And with him beside to help me, it's a-sailing I shall go. It's a-sailing on the water when the jolly breezes blow, and the vessel goes a-divey-divey-dive. Oh, it's then you'll see me sailing through the rushes and the reeds, and you'll hear the water singing at the prow. For beside the dolly sailor, I'm to voyage and explore, to land upon the island where no dolly was before, and to fire the penny cannon in the bow. End of section 34. Recording by Sue Gill.
Section 35 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Wind. I saw you toss the kites on high and blow the birds about the sky. And all around I heard you pass, like ladies' skirts across the grass. O wind, a-blowing all day long, O wind, that sings so loud a song. I saw the different things you did, but always you, yourself, you hid. I felt you push, I heard you call, I could not see yourself at all. O wind, a-blowing all day long, O wind, that sings so loud a song. O you that are so strong and cold, O blower, are you young or old? Are you a beast of field and tree, or just a stronger child than me? O wind, a-blowing all day long, O wind, that sings so loud a song. End of section 35. Recording by Sue Lusk.
Section 36 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caro. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. A Good Boy. I woke before the morning, I was happy all the day. I never said an ugly word, but smiled and stuck to play. And now at last the sun is going down behind the wood, and I am very happy, for I know that I've been good. My bed is waiting cool and fresh, with linen smooth and fair, and I must off to Sleepsin by, and not forget my prayer. I know that, till tomorrow I shall see the sun arise, no ugly dream shall fright my mind, no ugly sight my eyes. But slumber hold me tightly, till I waken in the dawn, and hear the thrushes singing in the lilacs round the lawn. End of section 36. Section 37 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Caro. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Good and Bad Children. Children, you are very little, and your bones are very brittle. If you would grow great and stately, you must try to walk sedately. You must still be bright and quiet, and content with simple diet, and remain through all bewildering, innocent and honest children. Happy hearts and happy faces, happy play in grassy places, that was how in ancient ages children grew to kings and sages. But the unkind and the unruly, and the sort who eat unduly, they must never hope for glory, theirs is quite a different story. Cruel children, crying babies, all grow up as geese and gabies, hated, as their age increases, by their nephews and their nieces. End of section 37.
Section 38 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Naha. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Picture books in winter. Summer fading, winter comes. Frosty mornings, tingling thumbs. Window robins, winter rooks, and the picture storybooks. Water now is turned to stone, nurse and I can walk upon. Still we find the flowing brooks in the picture storybooks. All the pretty things put by wait upon the children's eye. Sheep and shepherds, trees and crooks, in the picture storybooks. We may see how all things are, seas and cities, near and far, and the flying fairies' looks, in the picture storybooks. How am I to sing your praise, happy chimney corner days, sitting safe in nursery nooks, reading picture storybooks? End of section 38. Recording by Naha.
Section 39 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Sue Gill. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Swing. How do you like to go up in a swing, up in the air so blue? Oh, I do think it's the pleasantest thing ever a child can do. Up in the air and over the wall till I can see so wide, rivers and trees and cattle and all, over the countryside. Till I look down on the garden green, down on the roof so brown. Up in the air I go flying again, up in the air and down. End of section 39. Recording by Sue Gill.
Section 40 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. A thought. It is very nice to think the world is full of meat and drink, with little children saying grace in every Christian kind of place. End of section 40. Section 41 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Armies in the fire. The lamps now glitter down the street, faintly sound the falling feet, and the blue even slowly falls about the garden trees and walls. Now in the falling of the gloom, the red fire paints the empty room, and warmly on the roof it looks, and flickers on the backs of books. Armies march by tower and spire of cities blazing in the fire, till as I gaze with staring eyes, the armies fade, the luster dies. Then once again the glow returns, again the phantom city burns, and down the red-hot valley, lo, the phantom armies marching go. Blinking embers, tell me true, where are those armies marching to? And what the burning city is that crumbles in your furnaces? End of section 41.
Section 42 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Naha. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. My Kingdom. Down by a shining water well, I found a very little dell, no higher than my head. The heather and the gorse about in summer bloom were coming out, some yellow and some red. I called the little pool a sea. The little hills were big to me, for I am very small. I made a boat, I made a town. I searched the caverns up and down, and named them one and all. And all about was mine, I said, the little sparrows overhead, the little minnows too. This was the world, and I was king. For me the bees came by to sing, for me the swallows flew. I played there were no deeper seas, nor any wider plains than these, nor other kings than me. At last I heard my mother call out from the house at evenfall, to call me home to tea. And I must rise and leave my dell, and leave my dimpled water well, and leave my heather blooms. Alas! And as my home I neared, how very big my nurse appeared, how great and cool the rooms. End of section 42. Recording by Naha.
Section 43 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Shadow March. All round the house is the jet-black night. It stares through the window pane. It crawls in the corners, hiding from the light, and it moves with the moving flame. Now my little heart goes a-beating like a drum, with the breath of bogey in my hair. And all round the candle the crooked shadows come, and go marching along up the stair. The shadow of the balusters, the shadow of the lamp, the shadow of the child that goes to bed, all the wicked shadows coming, tramp, 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 with the black night overhead. End of section 43. Recording by Sue Lusk.
Section 44 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Andrew Gaunce. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Wintertime. Late lies the wintry sun abed, a frosty, fiery sleepyhead. blinks but an hour or two, and then a blood-red orange sets again. Before the stars have left the skies, at morning in the dark I rise, and shivering in my nakedness by the cold candle bathe and dress. Close by the jolly fire I sit to warm my frozen bones a bit, or with a reindeer sled explore the colder countries round the door. When to go out my nurse doth wrap me in my comforter and cap, the cold wind burns my face and blows its frosty pepper up my nose. Black are my steps on silver sod, thick blows my frosty breath abroad, and tree and house and hill and lake are frosted like a wedding cake. End of section 44.
Section 45 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Dick Bourgeois-Doyle. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Little Land. When at home alone I sit, and am very tired of it, I have just to shut my eyes, to go sailing through the skies, to go sailing far away, to the pleasant land of play, to the fairy land afar, where the little people are, where the clover tops are trees, and the rain pools are the seas, and the leaves, like little ships, sail about on tiny trips, and above the daisy tree, through the grasses, high o'erhead the bumblebee hums and passes. In that forest to and fro, I can wander, I can go, see the spider and the fly, and the ants go marching by, carrying parcels with their feet, down the green and grassy street. I can in the sorrel sit, where the ladybird alit. I can climb the jointed grass, and on high see the greater swallows pass. In the sky, and the round sun rolling by, heeding no such things as I. Through that forest I can pass, till, as in a looking-glass, humming fly and daisy tree, and my tiny self I see. Painted very clear and neat, on the rain pool at my feet. Should a leaflet come to land, drifting near to where I stand, straight I'll board that tiny boat, round the rain pool sea to float. Little thoughtful creatures sit on the grassy coasts of it. Little things with lovely eyes see me sailing with surprise. Some are clad in armor green, these have sure to battle been. Some are pied with every hue, black and crimson, gold and blue. Some have wings and swift are gone, but they all look kindly on. When my eyes I once again open and see all things plain. High bare walls, great bare floor, great big knobs on drawer and door. Great big people perched on chairs, stitching tucks and mending tears. Each a hill that I could climb, and talking nonsense all the time. Oh dear me, that I could be a sailor on the rainpool sea, a climber in the clover tree, and just come back a sleepyhead late at night to go to bed. End of section 45. Section 46 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Dick Bourgeois-Doyle. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. In Port. Last, to the chamber where I lie, my fearful footsteps patter nigh, and come from out the cold and gloom into my warm and cheerful room. There safe arrived, we turn about to keep the coming shadows out, and close the happy door at last on all the perils that we passed. Then, when Mamma goes by to bed, she shall come in with tiptoe tread, and see me lying warm and fast, and in the land of Nod at last. End of section 46.
Section 47 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Andrew Gaunce. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Night and Day. When the golden day is done, through the closing portal, child and garden, flower and sun, vanish all things mortal. As the blinding showers fall, as the rays diminish, under evening's cloak they all roll away and vanish. Garden darkened, daisy shut, child in bed, they slumber, glowworm in the highway rut, mice among the lumber. In the darkness houses shine, parents move with candles, till on all the night divine turns the bedroom handles. Till at last the day begins in the east a-breaking, in the hedges and the winds, sleeping birds awaking. In the darkness shapes of things, houses, trees, and hedges, clearer grow, and sparrows' wings beat on window ledges. These shall wake the yawning maid, she the door shall open, finding dew on garden glade, and the morning broken. There my garden grows again, green and rosy painted, as at eve behind the pane from my eyes it fainted. Just as it was shut away, toy-like in the even, here I see it glow with day under glowing heaven. Every path and every plot, every bush of roses, every blue forget-me-not where the dew reposes. Up, they cry, the day is come on the smiling valleys. We have beat the morning drum. Playmate, join your allies. End of section 47.
Section 48 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Dick Bourgeois-Doyle. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Nest eggs. Birds all the sunny day flutter and quarrel, here in the arbor-like tent of the laurel. Here in the fork the brown nest is seated, 4 little blue eggs the mother keeps heated. While we stand watching her, staring like gabies, safe in each egg are the bird's little babies. Soon the frail eggs they shall chip, and upspringing make all the April woods merry with singing. Younger than we are, O children and frailer, soon in blue air they'll be singer and sailor. We so much older, taller and stronger, we shall look down on the birdies no longer. They shall go flying with musical speeches, high overhead in the tops of the beeches. In spite of our wisdom and sensible talking, we on our feet must go plodding and walking. End of section 48. Section 49 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Dick Bourgeois-Doyle. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Flowers. All the names I know from nurse. Gardener's garters, shepherd's purse, bachelor's buttons, lady's smock, and the lady hollyhock. Fairy places, fairy things, fairy woods, where the wild bee wings. Tiny trees for tiny dames, these must all be fairy names. Tiny woods below whose boughs shady fairies weave a house. Tiny treetops, rose or thyme, where the braver fairies climb. Fair are grown-up people's trees, but the fairest woods are these, where if I were not so tall, I should live for good and all. End of section 49.
Section 50 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. From a Railway Carriage. Faster than fairies, faster than witches, bridges and houses, hedges and ditches, and charging along like troops in a battle, all through the meadows the horses and cattle. All of the sights of the hill and the plain fly as thick as driving rain, and ever again in the wink of an eye painted stations whistle by. Here is a child who clambers and scrambles, all by himself and gathering brambles. Here is a tramp who stands and gazes, and there is the green for stringing the daisies. Here is a cart run away in the road, lumping along with man and load. And here is a mill, and there is a river, each a glimpse and gone for ever. End of section 50.
Section 51 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Dick Bourgeois-Doyle. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. My Treasures. These nuts that I keep in the back of the nest, where all my lead soldiers are lying at rest, were gathered in autumn by Nursey and me, in a wood with a well by the side of the sea. This whistle we made, and how clearly it sounds, by the side of a field at the end of the grounds, of a branch of a plane with a knife of my own. It was Nursey who made it, and Nursey alone. The stone with the white and the yellow and gray we discovered, I cannot tell how far away. And I carried it back, although weary and cold, for though Father denies it, I'm sure it is gold. But of all of my treasures, the last is the king, for there's very few children possess such a thing. And that is a chisel, both handle and blade, which a man who was really a carpenter made. End of section 51.
Section 52 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Naha. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. Block City. What are you able to build with your blocks? Castles and palaces, temples and docks. Rain may keep raining and others go roam, but I can be happy and building at home. Let the sofa be mountains, the carpet be sea. There I'll establish a city for me. A kirk and a mill and a palace beside, and a harbor as well, where my vessels may ride. Great is the palace with pillar and wall, a sort of tower on the top of it all, and steps coming down in an orderly way to where my toy vessels lay safe in the bay. This one is sailing, and that one is moored. Hark to the song of the sailors on board, and see the steps of my palace, the king's, coming and going with presents and things. Now I have done with it, down let it go. All in a moment the town is laid low. Block upon block lying scattered and free. What is there left of my town by the sea? Yet as I saw it, I see it again, the kirk and the palace, the ships and the men. And as long as I live and where'er I may be, I'll always remember my town by the sea. End of section 52. Recording by Naha.
Section 53 of A Child's Garden of Verses. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson. The Gardener. The gardener does not love to talk. He makes me keep the gravel walk. And when he puts his tools away, he locks the door and takes the key. Away behind the currant row, where no one else but cook may go, far in the plots I see him dig, old and serious, brown and big. He digs the flowers, green, red, and blue, nor wishes to be spoken to. He digs the flowers and cuts the hay, and never seems to want to play. Silly gardener, summer goes, and winter comes with pinching toes. When in the garden bare and brown, you must lay your barrow down. Well now, and while the summer stays, to profit by these garden days, oh, how much wiser you would be to play at Indian wars with me. End of section 53. End of A Child's Garden of Verses by Robert Louis Stevenson.